Hey everybody, this is David at Barnyard Bees. Trying to get this video out before the storm comes. It's getting ready to come one here, it looks like. I did one video of it, but I'm retaking this video because when I went back and viewed it, I didn't say a few things that I should have mentioned. So this is my second take on this video. This video, I believe, is very important to the new beekeeper or even the advanced beekeeper. Please spread this video to anyone that you know, especially the new beekeepers. This will save your hive. And here's what the issue is about today, is about hive beetles and wax moths and how they can wreck your hive very fast. I have a friend named Joe May, good friend, and he can contest to this, and both of us learned this the hard way on our own. It wasn't something we was taught, and he can contest to that, the problem with these. And here is what you need to know on these. If you have a newly split hive or a weak hive, you can get away with it being weak and with extra frames in there early in the spring, but as the summer advances and gets later into the summer, the problem gets worse and worse with hive beetles and wax moths. Wax moths they fly around a lot more as it gets hot. You'll start seeing them in your headlights of your vehicles, and the evenings are cold enough to where there are just a lot of them. So here's the problem. If you look in this hive here, you'll see, you look across and you'll see wax, unattended wax, all the way across till you get to about right here. And there's not a whole lot of bees in here, and this is a new split, so there's not a lot of bees in here. No sign of any eggs being laid. It's waiting on the queen to come back from the mating flight. And as you can see here, we have queen cups. I don't see any larvae. They may actually be false cells because can't see any larvae in it. So more than likely it has a virgin queen, and we're waiting on her to return. And when she comes back, she'll bring back a swarm with her, the mating flight swarm, where she'll bring back a lot of bees with her. Then they'll start filling the box up. But meantime, what happens, these unattended frames like this right here will get infested with wax moths or hive beetles, and they will attack it from one side and progress till they get to the bees. By that time they're so strong the bees can't do anything with them. The bees leave. They'll up and swarm off, and people was like, well, what happened? There wasn't a lot of bees in there. Well, there's always something that causes your bees to leave, and that's what can cause them to leave. And here's another thing too that you need to do, is every once in a while, about every 2 weeks, pull all your frames out and look in the bottom, and you can see down in here, you'll see this stuff down in the bottom, and that's usually a wax moth or hive beetle larva. The little black dots is like the wax moth eggs, and you need to scrape that out. And if it's real bad, change your box out. Put your box that's been cleaned out, that's been sitting out in the sun, or a brand new box that you know is good. Scrape that stuff out, clean it out. If it's not too bad, you can just do like I am, because there's not a whole lot in here. You can reach in here, clean your box out, scrape it out. It'll be exposed to the sunlight. It'll kill everything in there, all the wax moths and the larvae. So after you do that, put your frames back in and only put what they can use. That way, now there's two things. This is important too. These frames here have nothing in them, so they're very light. So they're not going to get robbed out by another bee because there's nothing in them to rob. But if you have frames that have honey, and then you think, well, what do I do with those? Well, there's two things you can do. If you can harvest it, put it in what we call a robin box and set it out away from your hive somewhere, maybe out in the yard, somewhere away from your hives. Let them rob it out. The bees will share it. They'll spread it out through their hives. Or you can use it in a box that needs the resources. You can do either. I don't want to get confused with this right here, because this is the reason I remade the video, is because sometimes I take my frames and I'll just lean them up and put them to the side like this right here. Now I do that on a temporary basis, and because when that swarm comes back, that mating flight swarm comes back, she'll fill those boxes up, the box up. I'll have to start adding frames to it as they need it. Frames that are attended by bees will not be attacked by wax moths because they can take care of the problem because there's enough of them. So you can put them to the side like that. If you can, put them in another box is better. I do this, but on a temporary basis. Sometimes the wind can blow them over. And if you have any kind of weight to them at all, a little bit of honey, then you can cause a robbing situation by putting them there. So be careful with that. So I wanted to word that right to people so they understood that if they have any kind of resources in them that may be robbed, be careful, because that can cause a robbing situation. So take those frames. If you can't use them somewhere else, you can actually also, if you have a frame of honey, you can actually freeze it until you need it, and then put it in the hive. You really can't take a frame and wrap it up in plastic and put it off somewhere, because the eggs are already there. You got to remember that pretty much all hives have hive beetles and wax moths. They're already in the hive. You don't see it because the hives are strong. They keep the problem taken care of themselves. They'll carry out the larva. I've seen them come out the entrance with the larva, fly out in the air and drop it. So they'll keep it cleaned out if they got enough bees to do that. So, very important. Keep those frames. If they got honey in them, put them in a robin box. If you can't use them, in another hive, set them out somewhere, let them rob it out. They'll empty the frames out. But while doing that, you also want to keep that box exposed to some sunlight. So you'll maybe put a lid on it, but put the lid partially on it, and just leave, because if there's any light in it whatsoever, those wax moths and hive beetles will not thrive in that hive, because they don't like sunlight. They don't like the heat. So try to keep them out there exposed and cover them up a little bit. So that's a message for today. This is very important. It's coming upon. I wanted to wait till about this time of year to put this out where it'd be fresh in everybody's mind. It's very important. Please spread this video, because a lot of new beekeepers, it's coming time, this is going to happen through the hive, and this can be prevented by doing this. Keep what you need in there. See, like what I'm going to do right here. I'm going to leave these two frames right here. They're very light. There's nothing in them. And in a couple of days, I'll use them somewhere else, or if that mating flight swarm comes back, I'll stick them back in the hive. Now you can, since this is a starter strip made with foundation, they won't bother that. The wax moth and hive beetles won't touch that. It's got to be drawn out by the bees before they'll touch it. So I can put one of those back in, or I could actually put all these in there too as well, because they're probably not going to draw it out because they're not strong enough. But what I do, I just leave them to the side like that, and then keep an eye on the population, and then put the lid back on that feeder, and he's cleaned out. And I'll keep an eye on that hive. But that's a message for today. That's very important. There's so many people. I wish somebody had told me this back when I started in beekeeping, like I said, me and Joe May found out the hard way, because once they get in, they'll attack, and they'll attack from one side and come across the other. Once they get to the other side, the bees up and leave because they can't defend them. So remember that, and we thank you for watching. Please spread the video to anyone you know, and we're trying to help the new beekeeper. And thanks for watching Barnyard Bees.